What up, YouTube? Asian Persuasion here, and I'm here at the team YCS Las Vegas, here with the boys Tom Box, and you already know we got Slim YGO.
Yeah, I already know.
And we're here with who? Introduce you guys yourself and your team name and what you guys did this weekend.
So, I'm Josh Pavarnik.
I'm Joe Winkler.
I'm Jonathan Garcia. We are Team Chimmey Nguyen Fan Club.
I love it.
So we got top 4 this weekend.
Congrats.
Congratulations
awesome
on that.
job,
That's
you
a pretty
guys.
good accomplishment because you're usually a judge.
Yeah.
Usually like all the head judges.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've had the honor of head judging the World Championship before, so it's nice to be on this side for a change.
Yeah, I love it. So you're really close to this win, and I need you to tell them that dream scenario you said that would happen. I need to hear it on tape.
So it's my dream to be the first person in the history of the game to both have head judged and won a YCS. And we came close this weekend, really, really close. We only lost in top 4 to the team that won it all. And after that, it was Jesse Cotton, Dom Couch, and Mike Albanese. And after that, Dom told everybody that I was his hardest match all weekend. So
yeah, that's a pretty big
It's
deal.
a hell of a
too.
compliment, yeah.
For sure, man. Well, all right, let's just go ahead and get into the list.
Sure. So the three of us played an identical list, and it's just a pure RYZEAL list. So 3X, 3 Ice, 3 Sword, 1 Node. The only hand traps that we played in the main deck are 3 Ash Blossoms and 3 Imperms. Our logic behind it is we just didn't want to play into Talents because Talents is a god card. The Ash is only in there because it hits the mulch armies. And a lot of games when we're going second and stuff like that, we sided it out. We played 3 Strike in the main, and that was it for trap cards. For the spells, it was the 3 Bronfire, the 2 Cross, and the 1 Plugin. And then we played a bunch of board breakers. We played 3 Book of Moon, 3 Book of Eclipse, and 3 Ultimate Slayer, all in the main deck.
Oh yeah, Detonator hate on those.
Love it.
And then 3 Talents, also board breaker, but also consistency card when you need it. And a lot of games, you know, I just got to see my opponent's hand, and it didn't matter what they had. The fact that I knew what they had, they just couldn't win the game after that once I saw. And then 3 Desires and 1 Prosperity. We did not like Tachyon. We're not playing the Sharks, so Tachyon for us is just a -1. We really didn't want to have to put a card back, so we just relied on Desires and Prosperity for our consistency.
It also takes up an extra deck slot, which I didn't really want to give up either.
Yeah, extra deck is already tight. One of the reasons that we decided to play Pure and not Fiendsmith, because the Fiendsmith cards are broken. Like, there's no doubt that those cards will one day be banned in some way, shape, or form. Those cards are broken. But the reason we didn't want to play them is, yes, they work well together, but when you're cut off from the Fiendsmith cards, you're cut off from over 50% of your extra deck, and the extra deck is already kind of tight when you're trying to play through different things. So we just opted to play the deck that has a looser extra deck and more options for us. So our extra is pretty standard: 2 Duo, 2 Detonator, 2 Twins. We played Tornado Dragon. Tornado Dragon was busted. Tornado Dragon won me my Malice matchups, and it won me our top 8 match. My opponent played most cards. They searched for almost everything, so when they ended their turn, they had 3 sets and 1 card in hand with a Star Leash a Duo Drive and a Detonator. And I knew that 2 of the set cards were Plasma Hole and Plugin, and I knew the card in hand was Sword. So I just started off with Book of Eclipse, like getting stuff face down out of the way. He Chain Detonator popped itself. He didn't have a Twins under it, so it didn't float. I forced the Plugin, and then I Ultimate Slayer the Detonator back, and he chained Plasma Hole, popping my X. And then from there, I made Tornado Dragon, popped his last back row. It was Metaltronus. I chained Book of Eclipse again to flip the Tornado so he doesn't summon and save himself. I Talents took his Duo. I Duo detached from the Tornado Dragon and the Duo that he still had. And then from there, I just Dugaris OTK'd him. So this card's broken. It was super important.
They just always have one back row, and going into a board before committing your RYZEALs, just hitting the last back row is so useful.
Yeah. And then Dugaris came up a lot. You know, against certain matchups, we wanted to draw more cards to see those non-engine. You know, we're playing those high-impact cards like Strike, Book of Moon, Book of Eclipse. We just want to see those cards. So we would draw. Other times, you know, it would be our go for game line with doubling our detonator attack. And it never was able to happen in the tournament, at least for me. I don't know if it happened for you guys, but in testing, one of the things that we did against Malice was we just Dugaris looped Lancia. Because Dugaris just summoned it back, and Lancia can use itself from the field. So that was a play that we had our eyes on, but I personally
usually
never
just scoop before that.
Yeah.
All I use it was for OTK. Never
Yeah.
use it for drawing or the summoning Lancia back.
I drew all the time.
I drew all the time, and it was super relevant. And then from there, this card is broken. I don't play that often. The last real YCS I played was 2015. The 150th YCS Necros format. Exciton was relatively new. And most lists were playing 1 back then, and I played 2 back then. This card is still just as good now as it was back then. Like, and with all the book cards that we're playing, it just forces it through. Like, they don't have a lot of ways to just answer this. So this just is like a board state reset, and then from there we play in and set up our advantage.
When they bill your Exciton and you chain a book and they lose their whole board plus hand rip and hand trap, it's crazy.
It's also crazy, like, how many people, I guess Book of Moon is such an old card that it phases in and out on when it's good, but it's still one of the best cards ever printed. And when it's good, it's a god card. But what people don't realize, because it hasn't been seeing play recently until now, going face down removes lingering effects. So we had a couple people, we would activate like Duo Drive to search, and they would chain Imperm, and we would chain Book to put it face down, and they would chain another Imperm. And we're like, okay, and then just pick up our decks and continue searching for Duo Drive. And they're like, what are you doing? And had to explain that going face down removes that negate, so it doesn't matter that you use the second one.
It's so difficult to argue with you. It sounds like you judged
I never, like, I have integrity. I don't use my name or anything like that for that. I tell my opponents, go ahead and call a judge, and they did each time. And the judges were the ones to explain it, like, yes, that's correct, that's how it happens. Rest of the extra deck, Dweller's pretty important. Dweller's another reason that I just didn't want to play Fiendsmith cards, because everyone is preparing for Fiendsmith. No one's really preparing for this. And this card just is so strong against Fiendsmith.
That card's just been banned.
They literally, yeah, I mean, OCG finally banned it, but anytime this card is good, it's just an auto win in the matchups that you use it. Aggregator, self-explanatory, just being able to negate floodgates and being able to, like, threaten their cross, and being able to, like, X chainlink 1, aggregator chainlink 2, target cross, it forces your X through, because even if, you know, you're negating the cross, so they're not going to be able to negate the X at resolution. So they can at most, like, chain their detonator and pop it. And then another god card is Baguska. So in a lot of matchups when we were blind, we were doing a line where we were hard making Baguska turn 1, and then overlaying Baguska and Duo into twins, and sending the twins off of the node to summon back, make our detonator, attach twins, and then we had plug-in and any back row that we might have had. The plug-in lets us play around, that makes that play safe through nib, because you could just plug in back the Duo and attach. But more than that is, once our detonator's done with the last twins, instead of twins pop the detonator or whatever, we just twins back Baguska. And now we've popped 3 cards and they're forced to play under Baguska. And most of the time they just can't do that. So that was busted when we got to do it. It was great. Our last 3 slots are just dedicated to Ultimate Slayer. So we had a synchro target. Malong, pretty good, gets to send another face-up card after sending it.
It's mostly for Blue Eyes and sometimes Whitewoods.
Yeah.
And then Tri-Brigade Bucephalus. This is for Link decks, Malice. This came up so many times. And then it lets you send a card. So our last target is Garura for fusion cards, or if we're up against a Link deck, we send Bucephalus and it just lets us send Garura and draw a card. And the way that our deck is built, just extra cards is just busted, because we can usually play through most boards, especially when we see cards like Ultimate Slayer that let us do that.
Yeah. Every round, all my opponents just start groaning because you're gonna Ultimate Slayer, draw a card off Garua, draw a card off Cross, draw a card off Desires, draw a card, 2 cards off Dagaras, and you have so many cards in the whole duel.
Yeah.
So the rest of our extra deck, or the rest of our deck, sorry, side deck, moving on. 3 Lancia, self-explanatory. This card is, it's not so much an auto win, but it stops Malice from playing and lets you set up, so now they have to play through your board instead, and that's a lot harder. And then again, I mean, it never came up here, but it came up in testing where you can just do Dagaras' back because it can activate from the field. So that's self-explanatory. Like, absolutely have to play Lancia right now. As long as Malice is in the format, you just need auto win cards. We played Droll. It was all right. I wish it was another card in our side deck. It almost never came up for me. I don't know if it came up for you
I was
guys.
real scared of Mermail and like all the auto and FTK decks that if you let them, because we're not playing any hand traps side Ash and Imperm, so you're just gonna let a lot of FTK decks go first. And Droll is the only card that can like auto just shut down their turn. So I was scared of that, so I wanted to put it in. I didn't face any Mermail, but there were quite a few Mermail in the field. So
if we had faced it, I'm sure I would be saying something else. I'm sure that the Droll would be, the god card, stopping those FTKs. But it wasn't. But the cool thing to note about our deck is, aside from these and the Ash and Imperm, we played no other hand traps. No Charmies, no nothing. Charmies are great cards. We're not saying that they're not good cards, and we're not even saying that it's correct to not play them, but the whole way that our deck was built is to play through established boards, and our deck was built to be able to do that. So we can play through your full board if you go uninterrupted, and we're finding and testing that if we play Charmies, number one, we're just turning on their talents, depending on when. Like, you're either forced to do it in draw phase so you don't get talents, or you try and get some value out of it and then you just play into talents. And both are kind of because you give them the opportunity to, like, if you do it in draw phase, like, they know that they're under it and they can adjust their play accordingly. And if you play into talents, you play into talents. But the other reason is that when you Charmy someone, they're going to play around it. They're going to make a half board and they're going to hold their resources for their next turn. We want them to commit as much of their resources as possible because we're breaking their board. Yeah. So if we Charmy them and they like do the safe play and have resources to follow up and have a crackback, then we're just setting up ourselves into a situation where we could have dead cards on their following turn. Because the deck, yes, it can kill, but it's not like an OTK deck. It's not going to kill crazy like that. So we were on the plan of drain their resources, break their board, and then now they have no resources to play through our board. And if they do have resources, it's whatever they drew for turn and things like that. They were not able to be conservative. They're not conservative with the resources.
And the Charmies are just really bad in the grind game, and you play so many grind games, and you always have a cross-up or a monster left over, all these bad cards, or all these good cards, and you draw a Charmy off the top of the deck, or off your Desires, or your Cross, or your Dagaras, and you're just like, this sucks.
And we were tired of having Charmies turn 1, game 1, going first.
Yes.
The next card we played is Gravekeeper's Inscription. This is mainly for our Malice and our Blue Eyes matchups and Water also. It is Dweller in spell form, or it can prevent you from summoning from the graveyard or banishing cards from the graveyard. So it has a lot of different utility and a lot of different matchups. And this card was really good. This card won our day 2, round 2 for me against Jeff Jones. I was able to play this and prevent him from playing. Next, on the more board breaker plan, when we know we're going second, sorry, I can't speak. 2 Lightning Storm and Feather Duster, especially for like the Pure Mirrors or even the Fiendsmith. A lot of people are the cards that we're playing in the main. A lot of people are siding them. So a lot of people are siding strikes, siding books, things like that. So this is just mainly for spells and traps, but it's busted when you just have both and you can call both. Or if you're just like round 1 today, I was up against the Fiendsmith RYZEAL deck, and they did their full combo, but they had no back row, and they left everything in attack mode. So I just I Lightning Stormed for monsters, and then I booked the detonator, and they just lost their whole board, and then I just set up and made a Dweller, a Detonator, and they just couldn't play.
The best feeling is just when they go full combo and you look at your hand of Slayer Lightning Storm, you just like, oh, there go your monsters, there go all your back row, and you start playing for free after they committed their whole
It's so
hand.
busted. You just, and then the last card is for when we're going first. We don't want to lose to blowout cards like Lightning Storm or Feather Duster. We just want to be able to set our cards, force them through, and also against certain decks, like just stop the normal summon sometimes. It's just so broken. So that was it. That's our list. We played through the gauntlet. Like we beat Paulo's team, Jib and Gabriel Susi's team. We beat Shinping's team. We beat Jeff Jones's team. Like we played the gauntlet this tournament, and then we lost to Jesse. And but yeah, I mean, I'm a little sad that we didn't get to the win, but at least we lost to the winner, and they said that we were the toughest round, so I'll take that. Shout outs, big shout out to Diego, one of our testing partners, good friend of ours. He had a lot of the theory behind the deck also. Shout out to our friends back home. Shout out to Chimmey, who our name is on. He's a good friend of ours. He was the backpack player for John's team last year, and John was like, I can't do this anymore.
I had to drop him because last 3v3 I went X1 the whole tournament, and he went like X6, which is the reason we didn't top the last 3v3.
And shout out to everyone back home in Orlando that was rooting for us.
Santoli, because this
Yes.
was unbelievably close to his. He came up with the whole strike in the main books, 6 books, all of that. He topped Orlando and the other YCS with that.
Something that I like
Which
about
we also
the
played
books,
Santoli and Swiss.
Yeah, something that I like about the books is the fact that we're not playing cross out, but the books are just pseudo cross out, because anytime they Emperor and Baylor you just book your dual drive for your X or Ice, which happened all weekend.
Yeah.
And everything resolves after that.
Paolo's team had Santoli was on it, and when Paolo and Aaron McGinnis lost to me and to John, they just both turned to Santoli and were like, "Thanks, Santoli."
That's so funny.
Every time we activate a card, they're like, "Oh, these guys are big Santoli
Santoli
fans."
Yeah. And then we left striking going second, and they're like, "Oh, they're big Santoli fans." And they lose. They just turned. Yeah, thanks, Santoli.
That's another thing to know about the board breaking approach is that we would break their board, set up our own, even if it's like a detonator pass, but we would always like set strike book, and that would seal the deal regardless of what play they have left my follow. Thanks, guys.
Yep, I appreciate the
Appreciate
congratulations.
it, man.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank
The
you.
win is coming, man. Win is
Trying.
coming.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna
it's
start
coming.
playing more.
He's going to Houston now.
Yeah, he's playing Houston.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.